Tarot. Today we're going to talk about what makes your tarot practice thrive or not. So, I'm a plant person. I've got a small garden, and wherever I go, I'm checking out plants. From weeds to painstakingly cultivated plant displays to walking along the river walk, wherever I am, I'm noticing plants. And it occurred to me that tarot is like a plant. And the flowers of that tarot plant are those lovely, lovely tarot cards. We're all so attracted to the tarot cards because they're spectacular. There's no question about it. So you're walking along, you're in a store, you see a tarot deck, it catches your eye, so you take it home. And it's wonderful to have tarot cards in your home. But over time, that tarot plant, so to speak, that deck of cards, well, the blooms start to fade and leaves drop. And the plant's not looking so good. So why does that happen? It's because tarot, like a plant, is a living organism. And you have to tend to that living organism. It is not a fake plant. It is not a silk plant. You can't just leave it there for decoration. It just doesn't work that way. So, this is a drawing of how I think the tarot plant works. This is a tarot plant. So, most of what we find online is the above ground parts of the plant. These are the ubiquitous definitions, the ubiquitous spreads, the never-ending decks. And once again, I'm not putting the decks down, but there's a zillion. I mean, are you kidding me? And then I think just even the idea of divination itself is part of the above ground part of the tarot plant. However, the tarot plant has roots, and these are things that need to be learned and explored. So parts of the roots, and this is by no means everything. This is just a quick sketch to give you an idea. The roots include numerology, the energy of numbers, right? Platonic numerology, as well as just recognizing that numbers have a sequence, and that applies to tarot. There's a classical Western knowledge. Alchemy is contained in the cards. The four elements, earth, air, fire, and water, are contained in the cards. And also in the roots of tarot are the playing cards themselves. So, it's worth pondering the playing cards, because there's a lot of mysteries around the playing cards, such as there are 52 weeks in the year and there are 52 playing cards. Is that a coincidence? Are playing cards a calendar? I'm just throwing some ideas out here for you here. So there's much to study. But this is how I think of tarot, and this is how I teach tarot. The parts that I've gone over. If you take one of my classes, this is how I structure it. So, going back to the idea of roots, is a plant's roots provide stability and nourishment. They uptake water and nutrients, and they feed the entire organism. So, in our analogy here, tarot's foundations, history, and traditions inform everything above ground, which, like I said, is the decks, is the divination, is the spreads, all these other things. But the problem is that most people spend all their time above ground in the leaves and the flowers, and they don't ever get to the roots. And so their practice doesn't, quote unquote, root. It doesn't take root. It doesn't have a foundation. So if you're spending too much time in the leaves and the flowers, it could look like collecting decks but rarely using them, memorizing definitions without understanding them, thinking that tarot only exists for divination, because that is just one mere leaf on the tarot plant. There are other things that you can do with tarot besides divination. Arguing about different approaches, obsessing over which deck is most accurate or the one true deck, believing that you need different methods for different decks, like the Rider-Waite-Smith you read one way and the Marcel you read another way. I'm not so sure about that. Or struggling with spreads instead of creating your own. These are all behaviors that show that you're spending too much time in the leaves and the flowers and not enough with the roots. And, I'm not knocking these behaviors. I've been there. You've been there. We all do it. I'm just pointing it out. So, if you were to spend more time in the roots, what would that look like? Well, as I mentioned earlier, discovering tarot's playing card origins. You might want to look into the playing cards. There's also a whole system around reading playing cards. You might want to touch on it. You don't, like I said, don't make that like, oh, I got to study playing cards before I study tarot. That's not what I'm saying. But just look into it. You might want to explore the classical knowledge contained within the tarot deck. As I mentioned, the four elements of earth, air, fire, water, which correspond to the 4 tarot suits of Wands, Cups, Swords, and Pentacles. There's alchemy in the deck. There is classical Greek knowledge. You might want to just check out some classical history as well to kind of understand how the tarot deck is presenting information and how it's presenting allegory and how it's presenting archetypes and all of these other things. And then you might want to check out numerology, because numerology has the idea that every number carries energy. But what's nice about numerology is it has a very practical side because it's math. But it also, like I said, it talks about the essential energies carried in each number. So that is part of what hanging out in the roots of tarot might look like, not look at. So finally, I'd like to say the leaves are not useless. The leaves capture solar energy and create food, and they send it to the rest of the plant so that nourishment flows everywhere, including the roots. So that means that tarot's visible expressions are vast because the sunlight is unlimited. So you may have seen plants in Alaska that grow like super ginormous because they get like 23 hours of sunlight or something, and so they grow gigantic. We have that. We have plants in the tropical rainforest. We have plants in the temperate zones. We have all, plants in the desert. We have such a wide variety of plants and expressions of plants, and even one type of plant can have a zillion expressions, like the bougainvillea, for example. There's all kinds of different colored bougainvilleas. They grow different ways. So the expression of it is nearly limitless. So all I'm saying is there's a lot to be discovered and explored. So don't get caught up in one plant, one type of plant, one color plant, one expression of plant, because there's a whole world of plants out there. And finally, I'd like to say, hey, have you ever seen a plant covered in one color of flower, except like one branch will have a different color? Well, you are that plant. Show us what you've got.